it's coming out of a church that they've basically found that they're like, hey, you've been lying to us, and then it's hard to kind of shake that feeling where it's like everybody's lying to you. So something like doing kosher, for a Christian is like, oh well, why would you ever do that? We have refrigeration. They'll come up with these kind of logical thoughts,
You don't need a mikveh, you have a
and
shower.
then they'll be like, hey, we solved it, right? And
Mm.
but then when you actually live it out, it has a spiritual aspect that Hashem really blesses you, that you can't see by just logic alone. You have to live it out, have to experience it to see the true nature of it. And I think one of the big problems is that with the modern kind of internet rabbis and different people that filter down into messianic circles, is that they start hearing these kind of mystical fable kind of trying to over spiritualize it to try to explain it without actually living it out and doing it. It's making it something that it seems kind of foreign. And I think that's hard, because then it's almost like the same kind of things that they experienced in Pentecostal churches and everything, trying to make it higher than it really is, and kind of foreign to them.
Mm-hmm. I'm not of the opinion that if the Sanhedrin creates a law, that by keeping this law, whether you're necessarily going to find something spiritual and edifying in it down the road. I'm sure there's laws the Sanhedrin created that they regretted creating, and there's even a sacrifice they have to bring when they give an erroneous ruling. I'm just saying that we keep it because the Torah tells us to listen to this court. That's it. Whether you believe in it or not. And the Torah doesn't really deal with belief. It just tells you to do. You could assume all these guys are the biggest dummies, but you know what? They are the judges. That's it. Fine. And I'm pretty sure that's how they were treated in the ancient world. Now, that's not the way rabbis treat them today. And there's many rabbis who keep on saying that the Jews today are the descendants of the Pharisees, when nowhere in the Talmud do any of the rabbis there identify with the Pharisees. And I think this builds even more resentment with Christians, because what they're basically saying is that they're part of the group that helped put Jesus to death. It doesn't even teach that. So they just like poking Messianics in the eye for no good reason, right? Or maybe they don't know. Like maybe they think that the rabbis are descendants of the Pharisees.
Right. Yeah, the orthodoxy was, well, some of the people that you converse with have told me, and they believe in Yeshua, and they're like, Jesus was a Pharisee, and I'm like, bro, no, he wasn't. But whatever, if that's what you want to believe, because you equate Pharisee with orthodoxy, I mean, sure.
Rabbi, if I may, I don't mean to interrupt because I've been listening for quite some time, but I just first I want to say it's a real pleasure to get to speak to you, because I've been following your content for a year and a half, and I've been interested in. My name is Alicia Stover.
Okay, yeah.
I've been following your content for a year and a half, and I made the decision that I wanted to convert to Judaism when I was 15, but I unfortunately had a very bad end with Chabad Lubavitch in my local community, and it's been a very lonely road for the past several years. I've yet to complete my conversion because of my occupation and where I live. So I kind of discovered your video through trying to find an answer of how to cope with being a lonely convert, I guess. So I just want to say thank you for your hard work and what you do, because it does make a difference, and people out there are listening. But my question for you is, I was watching a video that you made a few months ago with three Muslims, and at some point in the conversation, the topic of Abraham and his status as being a prophet or not came up. And in your argument, you had said that Abraham was not a prophet in the sense that as a prophet, the job is to guide the nation of Israel back to keeping Torah. And the Torah was not given until the revelation of Mount Sinai. Now, I know the topic of Abraham is split. There is no consensus to my knowledge. So can you expand more on your thought as to why you don't consider Abraham a prophet? Because I know some Jews do.
Mm-hmm. So Torah itself calls Abraham a prophet, but it calls him a prophet before the Torah was given. Avimelech, with the guy who took Sarah, Abraham's sister and wife, captive, at the end calls Abraham a prophet. Now, there's also people called Kohanim, like the Kohanim of Baal, but no one's going to assume that Judaism calls these people priests, i.e. Kohanim in Israel. In other words, prophet, Navi, meant something different before the Torah was given than after the Torah was given. The reason I was adamant on making that point with Muslims is they use that as a way to say that, because in their opinion, anyone who speaks to God as a prophet could bring something new to the table. Our messenger, Muhammad, the last and final prophet, brought the last revelation. So I can't say that Judaism classifies Abraham a prophet, i.e. someone who brought something new to the table, because I would be giving credence ultimately to Muhammad and his revelation. Prophet meant something different before the Torah was given. Islam teaches that every character in the Bible is a prophet. Anyone who spoke to God is a prophet. But that's not what Deuteronomy chapter 18 tells us of the prophet that we have to listen to, i.e. the Jewish prophet. So just like there's pagan priests, there's also pagan people who commune with God, like Balaam. These people, from a Torah perspective, are not considered prophets. So it was really a tactic because they were trying to use that to say, just like Abraham's a prophet, Muhammad is also a prophet. And just like you accepted Abraham, you should also accept Muhammad. But nowhere post the Torah does it ever call Abraham a prophet. I mentioned it better in the actual discussion. I have two discussions where that topic came up. But I'll tell you, with the average person who believes in the Jewish world that Abraham was a prophet also has no problem assuming that prophets in Judaism could add something new. They have no problem assuming that either. It takes a more educated perspective to know that in Deuteronomy chapter 13, it says that even if a prophet brings something new, that you have to take him out and stone him. And this is really the birth of Christianity. They believe that the books of the prophets justify their theology, i.e. with new ideas, or at least not ideas that are easily understood in the 5 books of Moses. They'll believe that it's there, but it's like all foreshadowings. So I think as Jews, we have to be adamant on the notion that prophets or anyone can add anything new, any new revelation. Our revelation ended at the end of Deuteronomy. For example, the way Muslims view history and biblical history is by saying that God works through religious stages, saying that Moses was the prophet to the Jews, and ultimately Muhammad was the prophet for the Muslims. And the message of Moses was for only Jews, and the message of Muhammad was for the rest of the world, who they classify all as Muslim. And one way, or one tactic of them reaching out for the rest of the world is by classifying everyone that the other religions believed in as prophets, and not just as prophets, but as Muslim, to in some way say that Islam is the final continuation of the biblical saga. But that's not the way Judaism views history. In other words, in the Talmud nor in the Torah does it ever say or call Avram Hanavi. No, he's known as Avram Avinu, as our father, not Abraham the prophet. And I know it gets confusing today because there are many Jews and many websites that say Abraham was a prophet, but that's more for like PC, to sound politically correct. And they usually come from left-wing websites that try to find some common ground to unite with Muslims on. But that's not the Orthodox perspective or the Talmudic perspective. So, is Abraham a prophet? Not by Torah standards.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.